Alright, it's the time of the year again, where there is a big Path of Exile update. A real big one this time. I haven't uploaded anything during 3.24 based on no fun builds in general that I would like to show. I just did another trauma stacker again, but slightly different. Abusing elemental to physical damage taken or chaos damage taken and less damage taken in general. It was an alright build. It could delve, it could do most things, but the clear was abysmal. Anyhow, new league upon us, fun stuff ahead, lots of character and ascendancy changes, and thus I've been cooking a slight bit. So there are a few builds that I really want to try, and some builds that will be sounds fun in general. So I wouldn't recommend playing any of these because I can't promise they will work properly or if they are any good or anything. Remember that all of these, what's it called, PoBs are all based on late game gear in general. There are no leveling trees, there are nothing. These are just purely brainstorming, if you say so. And now, let's begin. So, the first thing I wanted to try out was the new Gladiator. The new Gladiator has a shit ton of block, it has a bleed, focus, some retaliation, but I'm not even going to try it because I don't know the numbers yet, and some other scuffed stuff in it. Anyhow, let's start off with the first build. The first one is a block-based, one-handed, crit bleed blocking Gladiator. We are using the new Lucky Block together with Versatile Combatant to guarantee a base 70% block throughout this node here for 3% maximum block attack damage, Anointed Safeguard for 3% maximum blocks, spell block, and the 2 block masteries for another +2, putting us from 75 to 70. Now, if we have blocked recently, our block becomes lucky, which means the block chance is rolled twice. Since the enemies only have a 30% chance of hitting us, and then multiply that again by another 30%, that ends up with 91% block. So you will get hit 9% of the time. Which means we can abuse the Surrender, or a Shaper Shield. Where is it? There it is. Because all other life on block was removed, you can either recover 5% of life throughout the Shaper, or the Surrender to just recover a flat amount. This will effectively just make us immortal from any small hits. You can still get one shot by a really big hit, such as a Shaper Slam probably. But we will see. We will see. This build, as I said, requires blocking quite a bit. It's using the Jag technique. People say, oh, don't use it, you can get it from the tree. But it's such an investment. You get 10% from this node, you get 50% from critical strikes, you get 25%. Oop, gonna remove that, that's useless. You get 25% on exerted attacks, you can get 50% on stuns, which requires a lot of investment when you can just get it easily here. Sure, you can use War of Attrition, but no, I don't like it. I'd rather just kill stuff quicker, to be honest. But they also changed Perfect Agony, which means your critical strike multiplier is equal to your dot damage. Sorry, it makes your damage over time multiplier equal to critical strike modifier. But our critical strikes doesn't deal any extra damage, and we can't inflict ailments unless it's a crit. To achieve this, we need to get some crit investment. In this build, I have about 700% crit multi, I believe. Yeah, 778. So, how does this build work then? We are using Replicate series. This is a heist unique that hasn't been any good at all for years. And it's fairly common. So this saves us quite a bit of points just walking up here and grabbing this. Instead, we can just focus on damage and survivability and AoE. Since we are using a crit build, we of course need to invest some into accuracy, which we get from here and here. Sorry, yeah, there it is. And of course precision for more flat accuracy. Now, Replicate series states you have perfect agony if you have dealt a critical strike recently. Lacerate hits twice per attack. And you see, we only really have one crit wheel here, one crit wheel here, and one crit wheel here, and we're still at 100%. How? You might think. Here comes the semi-awkward part. We're actually using Ambush. Ambush grants us 35% crit, critical base chance, and some extra critical strike multi, which adds into dot multi instead. It requires to use a one-handed weapon, and since we're using a shield, we of course use a one-handed weapon. As an axe, in this case. Based on this, we can also use the Merlin's Fallacy Amulet, quality it up with critical modifiers to add another 288% crit multi. Sure, it will grant us less critical strike chance, but based on the really high base crit chance we get from Ambush, and the crit chance from here, here, and here, we easily get to back up to 100%. And precision. Now, Ambush can only be used once normally, but we use it with a second wind. And another issue we have is that it normally has a 5-second cooldown. But, as you might see, it has a travel node, or movement. Travel is the most important tag, because the Stampede Boots has a travel skills, have 80% increased cooldown recovery speed. Putting this from 5-second cooldown down to 2.7, which makes it a lot more manageable. You can get more cooldown recovery rate throughout these two nodes here, but you will put it from 2.7 to 2.2. So half a second difference, doesn't really do anything. Since this is a bleed build, we don't really have to worry about the mana cost of skills, because we only hit once every 4 seconds anyways, and so it's basically just mana cost of 17 plus, where's the Ambush? Nothing. Okay, never mind then. Ambush is nothing, it's free. No, sorry, that's what's least, but 32, that's it. And we have that, so it's fine. And as long as we are moving 21 mana region, it will recover in that time. The bleeds last for about 3 seconds. Ambush was a cooldown of 2.7. Late game, with initial effect of Pride, we have a damage of 8 mil. Can you replace Pride with Malevolence? Is that going to do anything? 7.8, 6.9. Pride grants you more. And this is also at initial effect. At maximum effect, it's a lot more. Sure, you get longer bleeds, but doesn't really matter. And more AoE technically. Anyhow, so that's the first character. Oh yeah, another cool thing we're using in this build is the new belt that they teased in the reveal, which grants us 50% armor and evasion rating on the body armor as ward instead. Since we have a 91% chance to block, effectively, this will prevent. This is just a massive life boost in case you would get hit. It will be removed on any kind of hit, even if it's 1 damage, this entire shield will be removed. But small hits doesn't matter. Considering we have a 91% effective chance of block, we have a truck ton of life gained on block. This will just heal us back up instantly. Bang. Bada bing, bada boom. But what this does is it grants us another 1700 shield against bosses. Bosses hit hard. And in case we get hit, it's straight up just let 1700 damage less taken. So that's why I have that belt. You can use a Rislafa's coil when you're mapping to get more damage. But it's not a must. This is fine. So about the 24 million bleed in total. Can be good stuff. Will be clunky with the ambush. Lacerate has a slight big AoE together with, this node to grant us more melee AoE. We use Sand Stance with Blood and Sand to get another more AoE effect. We use the Axe node to get more AoE. So this will be guaranteed crit, big AoE attack, 3 bleeds, and a shit ton of block and life on block. The second one is abusing the same block system as the first one. Where is it? But it has a lot less damage, but it's hit-based. So this is a shield crush version, also using the surrender. You can get a shaper shield. I haven't put the shape on this, so I'm just going to add it real quick. Shape, where is it? Life, unblock. There it is. Done. So if you stack full into arm on this, you get a lot more damage. But the surrender is more like a early game shield you can get for a couple of divines until you can get a really high defensive shield, then reforge life and pray that you get the life on block instead of life regen. So it's a bit of an RNG craft, but will work eventually. So this is a physical based shield crush, full specking into impales, get the master metal from champion to get another impale and more physical damage on hit. Abusing the same system with maximum chance to block to effectively get 91% chance to block by anointing safeguard. And that's it. That's the build. Nothing really more interesting. Same here. You can get the Rislafis instead of Indus when mapping to add slightly more damage, but it's not a must. The other builds that are left are all slam builds in various shapes or forms. So the first one is Ice Crush Ascendant. This is abusing the new Gladiator, which grants us a double effect from dual wielding, which normally grants you only 20% chance of block and 10% more attack speed. But since it's doubled, we get 40%, which makes it really easy to max out your blocks. So we are using no weapons or gloves for that matter, considering this is a unarmed build with Hollow Pole, or unencumbered build. So we can't use any gloves or weapons, or shields for that matter. But instead it grants us more attack damage per 10 dexterity. So this is a dexterity stacking build, unarmed. So our skills gem slots are really restricted. So we only have a helmet, body armor, and boots. And the reason why I chose Ice Crash is because slam builds were buffed by quite a bit. And it also hits 3 times. It explodes 3 times in a chain. So you can just keep on spamming this slam over and over and over again and basically win. The defensive aspects of this is, of course, 65% chance to block by using Versatile Combatant, which we get from Replica Perfect Form, which also helps out with a block. We get the dual wield nodes here and down here, just to cap out a block and get some block recovery. We can't be stunned if we haven't been hit recently, since we are stacking evasion and block. The odds of us getting hit is from, attack hits will be, we have evade chances of 2%, 0.45 times 0.28. No, wait a second, I can't count. It's 0.35 times 0.28. Jesus Christ, am I dumb? Times 0.28. It's basically the same effective block chance as we had on the Gladiator, but for evasion against attacks. Spells is only 65%, but it's good enough. It has a really high mana cost, as you might see here, but we can always use the hits have a 25% chance to treat enemy monster resistances as inverted. Thus, we don't focus on lowering the enemy resistances at all. Instead, we can then use Warlord's Mark to get life and mana leech. And that way, we can use Val Pact to get instant leech from life leech, but we can't recover life in any other mean. Which is fine. It's fine. If you don't want Warlord's Mark and instead want like Punishment or Frostbite, I think it is for the cold one, you can always remove this and add a point into life mana leech here. That will solve it. It's up to you what you want. The only issue with this build is that it's extremely resistant starved and socket starved. Thus, you can always swap out Hatred for Purity of Elements to get ailment immunity and some extra resistances. But that also requires... but once you get a chance to avoid shock on your boots, implicits, plus 2 cluster jewels, not cluster, abyssal jewels, together with Storm Shroud, you should be able to remove Purity of Elements and add Hatred again. The 2 other builds are normal slam builds. So we start off with the Tectonic Slam Chieftain. This build, I want to try out the new Warcry buff effects with slams in general. So this is a piano build. You need to use 4 Warcries and maintain them. You need to expect a very slow attack speed, or attack time in general. It's 0.8 attacks a second. It takes 1.2 seconds for an attack to go off. The reason why is because I want to use the Marohi Urki because of its really high base damage. Is this even fixed now? Yeah, it is. Okay, never mind. The melee changes. Together with all the new stuff we get from Warcry, so Fizz's extra fire, we get double damage, we get more AoE and stun thresholds, so we stun enemies much easier, and a truck ton of life regen. And by truck ton, I mean a lot. It's 2% per 25 power, that's 10% life regen a second. We can get this life regen wheel to get another 15% effect. We get Warcry buff effects up to 100%-ish. So it's like 20 to 25% life regen a second. That is a lot. We also get endurance charges by Warcrying. Our Warcries have unlimited power. We are almost rest capped because I was being lazy or removed these points down here. I can just add this, but then again, we also level 100. Now, this tree I haven't really worked with that much. It's just stacking Fire Res with Brass Dome and Formless Flame to reduce damage taken, increase armor to respectable levels. So we can tank more, because this character is going to take a lot of hits. And since we have a truck ton of regen, no chance of blocking, we just need a lot of max res and regen to sustain it all. So that's that character. The last build I want to talk about is the General's Cry Slammer. This is a Berserker, which is currently trying to abuse the new rage mechanic as much as possible. This build is using General's Cry, which summons a clone of yourself to deal the damage, and the clone always has a 1 second attack speed, and it can't be improved. Just like the previous build, then we're also using a Urki hammer, just because of the base high damage, basically. And I believe, if I remember it correctly, I might be wrong here, and if I'm wrong, then this damage will drop a lot. Every single instance of the clones will have a separate instance of the skill, and by this I mean that normally you can only have like one earthquake active at a time, but with this skill, General's Cry, they all can have one separate earthquake each. Which means if we have 7 clones, we have 7 earthquakes going on at the same time. To abuse this as much as possible, we are stacking lots of physical damage. We can't really use any other war cries because war cries don't affect the clones themselves, the General Cry clones. We are stacking skill effect duration and war cry duration just to make the clones last a little bit longer between packs when mapping. But since we're also using the alternate version of Earthquake, that means that it will take a long time before it explodes. 5 seconds to be exact. But the initial impact when clearing is still 7 mil, so it's fine. The aftershock itself, big. Like, really big. It won't be really 76 million because the impales from the first hits will have small damage numbers, which will affect the impales after all. But eventually, you're gonna remove those impales when attacking again and again and again, and eventually it will have somewhere between, what does this impale damage say, 3.9 mil and 400,000. So every now and then it will be a 400,000 hit, sometimes it will be a 3.9 million hit. Considering Earthquake also gets more AoE and more damage per 0.1 second duration, and this lasts for 5 seconds, if we invest in some increased AoE, we'll get more AoE, even more. So if you want to remove some of these, like strength, well, this dual socket here, and with your very last skills, you can add this for even more increased area of effect. The AoE will be massive. Since we're using a 200, we need to invest in max resistances, we need to invest into armor, so, and some life regen, which we can get from Enduring Cry as well. Hence why duration is important, because we want to maintain the 10% regen from Enduring Cry. This build is also crit immune based on Brass Stone, and we're of course using Ashes of the Stars because Earthquake gets a base duration based on quality, more duration, more damage, and more AoE. And General's Cry gets more clones. So, quality, good. So this character is all about running around and screaming. When doing bosses, you use Desecrate on the ground once, because it doesn't consume the corpses when you use it, it just summons corpses from it. The only issue we have is Warcry power, because this is a 200 build. And Rage gain is also a slight issue. So early on, you can get Warcries have a minimum of 10 power. That will summon slightly less clones, so you have less damage. But since you have such high clone duration, this should work in between packs-ish. Until you can get Flesh and Stone and snag the Chieftain's infinite Warcry power. That means you always summon maximum amount of clones, you will have maximum effect of your Enduring Cry, and Warcries gain rage per power, up to 5. Which means you normally, to get 50 rage, need to wait and scream 10 times to get to 50 rage. We can solve this easily early on whenever we're entering an arena or anything by just swapping weapons to a Red Blade banner with Jade Hatchet, together with a Warcry of your choosing, or choice, whatever it is, together with Second Wind. That means you can use these two Warcries at least 4 times, well, these two 4 times in general, and your shield also has 2 Warcries. So that means we have 4 cries here, 4 cries here, that's 8 Warcries. You're up to 40 rage instantly whenever you're entering a map. Then you swap back to your hammer, and then you, of course, you have your Enduring Cry and your General's Cry. That's another 2 Warcries. You're up at 50 now. You're max rage. Easy. Fix. It requires some clunky swapping early on, but it's the only way you can reliably get up to 50 instantly whenever you're entering a map. Other than that, I believe this build should work, but I haven't really tried out the Earthquake if it has separate instances of Earthquakes. If it doesn't have it, then I'll probably swap to, just as a meme as well, Earth Shatter of Prominence, which then has spikes. The spikes themselves deal more damage, but there are less of them, and has more AoE. Since we're scaling some increased AoE, we can then get more AoE. Well, then we get more out of the more area of effect, so to say. But the only issue is that the clones don't aim with these spikes. They just walk up and slam, and the spike will just travel somewhere. And whenever we Warcry again, we detonate them. So it's basically a constant explosion of spikes. It has less damage, but at least I know this will work. So these are my possible league starters. I haven't decided on which one, but I'm thinking of the Bleed Block Gladiator, the crit one. It sounds the most fun out of these, considering the low power and lots of investment to get the Ash of the Stars running, and Flash and Flame for infinite power. I hope you have a fun and good league start, and I see you around. Side note: when editing this, I noticed a issue with the build. It's that I had this Warbringer node here. It doesn't do anything more than Warcry speed and more physical damage. I technically could just add it, but it doesn't really do anything. So instead, I would just grab Defy Pain to get slightly more armor, and at 10 Defiance, take Reflected Physical Damage as maximum life, then lose all Defiance. Since maximum life is only 3000, it's 3000 damage mitigated by armor and the Physical Mastery, less damage taken. This shouldn't be an issue to maintain. Grants you slightly more survivability against physical hits. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say we have like 8 stacks. We suddenly have 70,000 armor. It's quite a bit. Adds some survivability to a character that's already taken a lot of hits. That was it. Thanks for watching.